Hello and welcome to Tbtv. My name is Imran Azam and we're lucky enough to be joined by Lord Knight, who is Lord Knight of Weymouth, giving his full title. We're here at Silicon Beach 2013 in sunny Bournemouth, and it is sunny. It's beautiful, actually, my first time here. Thank you very much for joining us, Lord Knight.
Real pleasure.
So you've just stepped off the stage. No doubt there was a standing ovation at the end of it. The Twitter feed's gone crazy. We're probably trending right now. So what is it that you were talking about today?
In essence, I was talking about the extent to which digital is a massive game changer for us in the way that we work, in the way that we have relationships, in the way that we do so many things. And it ought to be a game changer for the way we design public services, but in particular the way we learn. Because at the moment, too many kids aren't engaged by education. Too many employers are saying that they're not getting people who are good problem solvers, who are confident, who are creative, who are collaborative, and all of that has to change.
I mean, I kind of remember a time when I was growing up where education seemed to be a one-size-fits-all, and it seems to have moved on since then, so that now individual children are treated as individuals rather than as a collective. Has it gone far enough, though? Are children still being herded into certain pigeonholes?
To some extent, we still have the industrial model of education designed in an era of factories when most people could leave school with limited levels of skill and go and do repetitive work in factories, and then a small minority go on to do interesting professional jobs. That's the market we've got to get people into, and I'm afraid because, and I take my share of responsibility, because we still have an overemphasis on certain types of examination where you have to sit on a little desk in a big hall and write with paper and pen, which you'll never do for the rest of your life. Because of that overemphasis, we're not really doing enough in schools that is personal, but that is also bringing forward those group problem-based skills that we need in the world of work.
So I'm a keen viewer of TED Talks, and one of the most popular ones on there is by Sir Ken Robinson. And I noticed from a couple of things that you said earlier about the industrial era of education that perhaps that is something that you subscribe to yourself. Yes,
Ken is one of the inspiring figures that I look to, and he's been consistently saying that we don't have a school system that engenders creativity. I also referenced another TED talker in my few words, who won the TED Prize this year, Siddhartha Mitra, and he's been doing all the work around the hole in the wall and cloud-based schooling, and essentially children who are motivated enough in the poor parts of India, for example, being able to do some amazing learning without any teachers, but being set free by technology.
I mean, it is pretty incredible what's happening to technology around the world. I mean, I've signed up to the newsletter for edX over in the States, where there's a collaboration between universities providing online learning. And then there's one of the most famous models, which is perhaps a pioneer, which is the Khan Academy. And Salman Khan talks about reversing the educational model so that instead of children going to school and being taught, that's actually when they do their homework. Yeah. And actually they undertake their lessons at home. So we're really going through a sea change here with regards to education, aren't we?
We could be if teachers are incentivised to embrace that change. And that flipping of the classroom that Salman talks about, and that some of the people I also referenced in my talk talked about, and they're really doing much more in the States than here, I think is an amazing opportunity to free up class time and the time of teachers, the professionals, so that they're not having to stand in front of a class and give instruction. That instruction's already been done at home, so they can then use that precious classroom time to focus on where individuals are stuck and to organise much more engaging, fun, group-based learning where you make things and do stuff, which is what we all need to be able to do.
So you're part of the upper chamber, and I'd love to get into a political debate about whether or not you guys should be elected, but we'll leave that for another time. But I will ask you a political question. Does Michael Gove have it right in his perspective, or is he taking us back to the Victorian age?
I don't think he's got it right. To some extent, he is doing what I did on steroids, and what I did in the end didn't work as well as I would want it to, because it failed kids from poorer backgrounds. We didn't narrow the gap with those from richer backgrounds well enough. There's still too many young people who are not in education, employment or training. those tell me that Michael's got it wrong. He wants more rote memorisation, and yet facts are free on Google. We need people who are able to take that information and convert it into knowledge by being able to think, by being able to communicate.
Would you say that your view is on the fringes? Do you think that this system is far too set in its ways in order to really affect change in the short or even medium term?
I don't think it's in the majority yet, and we do need those for whom the current model of academic elitist education works well, who become the journalists and the decision makers, to start to hear the voices of employers who I do think that things need to change quite radically.
And briefly, how can technology, give some examples of how technology can really empower students to really fulfil their potential?
Well, you've already talked about flipping the classroom, and that has a lot of potential. We're seeing in universities that change with the massive open online courses, the MOOCs, that are free and that people can learn from, and you mentioned one of them earlier on. Those are great opportunities. But then to be able to have students learning from each other, which is, the best way to learn is to teach. And that peer-to-peer learning and embracing that culture that's part of social media is a fantastic opportunity. And then also to bring forward the student voice. So teachers know how well they're doing because they get proper feedback from students.
Are we leading the way here in the UK, or are we playing catch-up?
We're playing catch-up.
So which parts of the world really are embracing these changes?
We're seeing some pockets of innovation in the US. We're seeing some really good work in parts of Canada. And then the Asian Rim, in Singapore, they're really trying to design a system now. Having got everything right on the traditional model, they're trying to design a system around creativity, and they're a really interesting one to watch. So
it would be remiss of me not to make this more specific to Bournemouth. This is the area where you live and work. What is it that Bournemouth can bring to the table? Because we're very close to Silicon Roundabout. If we look at the successful technology hubs around the world, they are concentrated around a particular area. So wouldn't it just be sensible really not to pay too much attention to Silicon Beach and perhaps just focusing on Silicon Roundabout and what's going on around there?
No, I think it's a fantastic hub down here of activity in the digital sector. It's part of changing people's perceptions of Bournemouth, which for most of the country is a place where people retire. It's not where there's engaging employment activity. But there's a fantastic quality of life down here, which, and if you can enjoy that whilst earning well because you are in the expanding digital economy, then you get the best of both worlds, and that's what something like this event is able to promote.
I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate. I mean, I grew up in London, but I'm now living in Manchester, so that's a great technology hub.
Exactly, and there's more to life than London, but unfortunately, I've got to go and get a train.
You've got to go and get a train. And on that note, thank you very much for joining us. So that's Lord Knight at Weymouth. He's got to catch a cab. I know that because I gave him the phone number for the cab. No doubt he'll be joining us again at some point, and the best of luck with campaigning for what is a very good cause. Thank you.
Cheers.